The hallway of Saito High School was a slaughterhouse. Blood painted the lockers in streaks of crimson, and the fluorescent lights flickered like dying fireflies. Kaito Saito pressed his back against the wall, his breath ragged, his heart hammering against his ribs. He clutched a broken mop handle like a lifeline, but he knew deep in his gut that it wouldn't save him. They came from the science wing. A wave of them. Gray skin, vacant eyes, jaws snapping with a hunger that transcended reason. Kaito had seen the news reports, the emergency broadcasts that blared from every screen before the power died. Stay indoors. Avoid contact. Do not. The broadcast cut off mid-sentence, replaced by static that sounded like the screams of the damned. He'd been in the library when it started. Yuki, a girl from the year below, had been crying in the corner while Mr. Tanaka tried to barricade the doors with bookshelves. But the zombies had broken through. Kaito ran. He didn't look back. Now, at the intersection of hallway C and the east stairwell, his luck ran out. A zombie lunged from the side, a janitor, still wearing his uniform. Its teeth sank into Kaito's forearm before he could even scream. The pain was electric, white-hot, spreading through his veins like wildfire. He shoved the creature back, but the damage was done. Blood seeped through his torn sleeve, and he felt the virus crawling through his bloodstream, cold and hungry. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." He'd seen what happened to the Bitten. They turned within minutes. Their eyes glazed over, their skin paled, and they became one of them. Kaito slumped against the wall, waiting for the end. He thought of his mother, of the deck of trading cards he'd left on his desk this morning, a silly hobby, he'd thought. Now, it felt like a lifetime ago. But the transformation didn't come. Instead, a blue screen flickered to life in front of his eyes, translucent and sharp, like a hologram from a sci-fi movie. System initialized. Necro-Deck Synthesis. Detected host, Kaito Saito. Status, infected but compatible. Beginner's guide, touch a zombie to convert it into a card. Kaito blinked. The screen didn't fade. He raised his trembling hand, still bleeding, and touched the janitor zombie that was now clawing at the air. Confused by his lack of turning. The moment his fingers brushed its gray skin, the zombie dissolved. Its body unraveled into streams of blue light, coalescing into a rectangular card that fell into Kaito's palm. Shambling Scavenger, common. Cost, 5 HP. Effect, a basic zombie unit. Slow but persistent. What the hell? Kaito stared at the card. It felt warm, almost alive. The illustration showed a shambling figure with hollow eyes, exactly like the janitor had been. But something in the back of his mind, the system he guessed, told him he could summon it. He focused. Summon. A flash of blue light, and the zombie reappeared in front of him. But this time, it didn't attack. It stood still, head cocked, waiting. Kaito felt a thread connecting them, a tether of will. He thought, Xinhao, walk forward. Xinhao, the zombie shuffled ahead. Xinhao, stop. Xinhao, it halted. Xinhao, protect me. Xinhao, the creature turned, facing the hallway, its body a shield between Kaito and the remaining zombies that were now shambling toward them. A wave of dizziness hit him. His vision swam, and he felt a sharp drain in his chest like he'd just sprinted 100 meters. The system had taken its toll. He checked his health bar, a new addition to his vision, 75-100. The summon had cost him 5 HP, and he could feel the deficit. But he was alive. He hadn't turned. He was a card master. Kaito scrambled to his feet, clutching the card. The hallway was chaos. More zombies were emerging from classrooms, drawn by the noise. He needed to move. He needed to find Yuki and Mr. Tanaka, if they were still alive. He took a step, and then the wall exploded. Bricks and drywall sprayed across the corridor as a massive figure crashed through from the gymnasium. It was a zombie, but unlike any Kaito had seen. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, its muscles bulging under torn skin, its fists the size of cinder blocks. One eye was missing, replaced by a pulsating mass of black veins. It roared, a sound that shook the floor. Brute, uncommon. Threat level, high. Kaito's blood ran cold. He looked down at his single card, a common shambling scavenger. It was a pea shooter against a tank. The brute took a step forward, its massive foot cracking the tiles. He had one advantage. The system had whispered it to him during the initialization. Once per battle, he could shuffle his deck. But right now, his deck only had one card. Shuffling wouldn't change a thing. He needed more. He needed to survive. The brute charged. Kaito's mind raced. He couldn't outrun it. He couldn't fight it. But he could convert. He looked around. There were other zombies in the hallway, common ones. If he could touch them, he could add them to his deck. He could draw something better. He dodged the brute's first swing, the wind of its fist ruffling his hair. He rolled, came up, and sprinted toward the nearest zombie, a girl in a school uniform, her head lolling. He touched her. She dissolved into a card. Shambling scavenger, common. Another. A teacher. Same result. 3 cards now. All common. The brute was turning, its single eye fixed on him. Kaito held his deck, felt the weight of it. He had one shuffle per battle. He had to use it now. Shuffle! The cards in his hand blurred, reforming in a new order. He drew the top card. Shambling scavenger, common. His heart sank. The brute lunged. Kaito threw the card forward, summoning the zombie. It intercepted the brute, but the larger zombie simply swatted it aside, sending it crashing into the lockers. The shambling dissolved into light, defeated. Kaito was out of cards. His health was at 70 now, drained by the summons. The brute loomed over him, its shadow swallowing the light. He had nothing left. But then he remembered the janitor. The first zombie. He still had that card in his hand, the one he'd summoned earlier, now returned to card form after being destroyed. He looked at it. Shambling scavenger, common. It was his only card. It wasn't enough. The brute raised its fist, ready to crush him. Kaito's eyes darted around the hallway, searching for anything, a weapon, a distraction, a miracle. And then he saw it. At the end of the hall, near the broken wall, a zombie that was different. It was larger than the common ones, its skin a darker shade of gray, its arms ending in claws. It was still shambling, but it radiated a faint purple aura. Brute, uncommon. There were 2 of them, the one in front of him, and the one at the end of the hall. If he could survive long enough to touch the second one, he could add it to his deck. He could shuffle again. But the first brute was too fast. The fist came down. Kaito rolled to the side, the impact cracking the floor where he'd been standing. He scrambled on his hands and knees, ignoring the pain in his bitten arm, ignoring the blood that dripped into his eyes. He ran toward the second brute. It saw him coming. It roared. Kaito didn't stop. He reached out, his fingers brushing its chest. Brute, uncommon, added to deck. He skidded to a halt, turning just as the first brute closed the distance. Kaito drew the new card. He had one shuffle left. No, he'd already used it. But he could summon directly. Come out! The second brute materialized in front of him, its massive body blocking the first. The 2 titans clashed, fists meeting flesh, roars filling the hallway. Kaito stumbled backward, gasping for air. His health was at Wushuwa. The summon had cost him 15 HP, the cost of an uncommon card. He felt lightheaded, but he was alive. The 2 brutes were evenly matched, tearing into each other with primal fury. Kaito knew he had to move. He had to find the others. He turned and ran, leaving the battle behind. As he reached the stairwell, he heard a crash. He looked back. The second brute had fallen, its body dissolving into light. The first brute stood victorious, its single eye scanning the hallway for him. Kaito's hand trembled as he clutched his deck. He had one card left, the Shambling Scavenger. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. He looked at the brute, at its raw power, and whispered to himself, "I need a better draw." Kaito dove sideways as the brute's massive fist slammed into the locker where he'd been standing. The metal crumpled like paper, sending a shower of sparks and debris across the hallway. He rolled, his shoulder scraping against broken glass from a shattered window, and came up in a crouch, heart hammering against his ribs. The brute, a hulking, muscle-bound corpse with veins black as tar pulsing under translucent skin, turned slowly, its dead eyes locking onto him. It let out a guttural roar that shook the dust from the ceiling tiles. Kaito's breath came in ragged gasps. His deck was empty except for a single Shambling Scavenger card, and his health sat at a precarious 55. He couldn't summon again without risking collapse. But as the brute charged, its heavy footsteps cracking the linoleum floor, Kaito noticed something. The system interface flickered at the edge of his vision, highlighting the brute with a faint blue outline. A new prompt appeared: absorbable, brute, uncommon, touch required. Cost: 15 HP, 15 health. That was a third of what he had left. But if he could turn this monster into a card, he'd have a real weapon. The brute lunged, arms outstretched. Kaito waited until the last possible second, then sidestepped, grabbing a fire extinguisher from the wall and swinging it with all his strength. The metal cylinder connected with the brute's knee, producing a sickening crunch. The zombie stumbled, off balance, and Kaito saw his chance. He dropped the extinguisher and rushed forward, slamming his palm against the brute's exposed chest. The moment his skin touched its cold, clammy flesh, a surge of energy ripped through him. The world went wide. Pain exploded in his skull, and his health bar dropped like a stone. 55. 40. 30. 25. He gritted his teeth, refusing to let go. The brute convulsed, its body dissolving into streams of black smoke that spiraled into Kaito's hand. When the light faded, he was holding a card. The image showed the brute mid-roar, its fists clenched. Brute, uncommon, cost 10 HP to summon. Kaito staggered, catching himself against the wall. His vision swam, but he forced himself to stay upright. He could hear more shuffling footsteps from the corridor ahead. The noise was attracting other zombies. He needed to move. He summoned the brute. The card glowed, and from the light emerged the hulking corpse, now bound to his will. It stood before him, waiting. Kaito pointed down the hall. "Clear a path." The brute charged. It tore through two shamblers like they were made of wet paper, ripping limbs and crushing skulls. The sound was grotesque, but effective. Kaito followed in its wake, his legs shaky but determined. He made his way toward the library, the only place in the school with reinforced doors. If anyone had survived, they'd be there. The brute smashed through a cluster of zombies blocking the entrance, and Kaito shoved the heavy oak door open. Inside, a dozen faces turned toward him. Students, a teacher, all huddled among overturned shelves. Mr. Tanaka, the history teacher, stepped forward, his glasses askew. "Kaito, you're alive. But what is that thing?" "It's under my control," Kaito said, his voice hoarse. "I'll explain later. We need to barricade the door." They worked quickly, dragging desks and bookcases against the entrance. The brute stood guard, its presence a silent threat. Kaito leaned against a shelf, catching his breath. His health was at 25, and he felt every point of it. Then a scream cut through the relative calm. "A girl, Yuki." One of the younger students had wandered too close to a side window. A zombie's hand had shot through the broken glass, grabbing her ankle. She fell, crying out as the thing pulled her toward the jagged frame. Kaito's hand went to his deck. He had 2 cards, the Shambling Scavenger and the Brute. The Brute was already summoned, so it didn't count as a draw. He could summon the Shambling for 5 HP, dropping him to 20. Or he could recall the Brute and summon it again later, but that would leave him defenseless. Yuki screamed again. The zombie's teeth scraped against her shoe. Kaito's mind raced. He had to choose. Every second cost her blood. The window shattered. A gray hand clamped around Yuki's ankle, its nails digging into her skin. She screamed, her small body jerking backward as the zombie's face pressed against the broken glass, a woman with half a jaw, her teeth snapping at the air. Kaito didn't think. He threw his hand forward, the Brute card glowing between his fingers. Come forth! The air thickened. A ripple of heat escaped his chest as the Brute materialized in front of him, a hulking mass of muscle and torn flesh, its single eye scanning the room. It didn't wait for orders. It lunged, one massive fist crashing down on the zombie's head. Bone splintered. The grip on Yuki's ankle loosened, and she fell back, scrambling away as the Brute dragged the corpse through the window and slammed it against the pavement outside. Silence. Then the Brute dissolved into green motes, returning to Kaito's deck. He felt the drain, a sharp sting in his ribs, his health dropping to 20. Yuki stared at him, tears streaking her face. You saved me. Mr. Tanaka stepped forward, his glasses crooked, a fire extinguisher raised like a weapon. What was that? What are you? His voice cracked, but his eyes held a desperate hope. Kaito held up his hands. I'm like you. Infected. But I didn't turn. I got a system, Necro-Deck Synthesis. I can turn zombies into cards and summon them. Cards? A woman with a bloody arm, MS. Hayashi shook her head. This is insane. Show us, Mr. Tanaka said. Prove it. Kaito scanned the room. Near the overturned shelf, a zombie lay pinned under a fallen bookcase, a shambler, still twitching. He walked over, ignoring the guests. He pressed his palm against its cold forehead. The familiar blue light pulsed, and the zombie dissolved into a card, Shambling Scavenger, common. His health held steady at 20. He held up the card. See? The survivors exchanged glances. Mr. Tanaka lowered the extinguisher. You can control them. Summon them, Kaito corrected. But each summon costs health, and the zombies mutate every 24 hours. They get stronger. I have to hunt for new cards every day just to keep up. A boy with a baseball bat, Kenji, spoke up. So you're saying we're safe as long as you keep fighting? Kaito shook his head. I'm saying I need a place to rest and plan. I can protect this group, but I need information. How long has it been? What do you know about other survivors? Mr. Tanaka adjusted his glasses. 3 days since the outbreak. We've been hiding here since. We heard a radio broadcast yesterday, a group calling themselves the Haven offering shelter. But we couldn't reach them. The Haven? Kaito's instincts prickled. Where? Downtown. Near the old hospital. Mr. Tanaka pointed to a map on the wall. But the streets are swarming. We'd never make it. Kaito studied the map. I'll clear a path. But first, I need to rest. And I need to know everything you've seen. Deal, Mr. Tanaka said. You protect us. We give you shelter and intel. They shook hands. Yuki clung to Kaito's sleeve, her small fingers trembling. He didn't pull away. An hour later, Kaito sat in the corner of the library, sorting his deck, Shambling Scavenger, common, brute, uncommon, and the newly absorbed Shambler. 3 cards. Not enough. He needed more faster, stronger zombies. The mutation timer was ticking. A radio crackled on the librarian's desk. Kenji had been fiddling with it. Suddenly, a voice broke through the static. Any survivors? This is Haven Base. We have food, water, and medical supplies. Follow the main road to the hospital. We'll guide you in. Repeat. Kaito's eyes narrowed. Something felt off. The voice was too calm, too rehearsed. He opened his mouth to warn them, but before he could speak, a new sound drowned out the radio. A roar. Deep, guttural, and amplified like a lion's growl filtered through a megaphone. It came from outside, close, too close. Mr. Tanaka paled. What was that? Kaito's system flashed a notification. Warning. Screamer zombie, rare. Detected within 200 meters. Mutation tier, 2 ability. Sonic screech that attracts hordes and stuns survivors. Everyone, get down, Kaito hissed, his hand already on his deck. We've got company. The sonic wave hit Kaito like a physical wall. His ears popped, and a dull, piercing ache drilled into his skull. Around him, the survivors crumpled. Yuki dropped to her knees, hands clamped over her ears, her face twisted in pain. Mr. Tanaka staggered, clutching a desk for support, his glasses askew. Kenji's baseball bat clattered to the floor as he doubled over, groaning. Ms. Hayashi, already nursing her injured arm, collapsed against a bookshelf, her eyes squeezed shut. Kaito forced himself to stay upright, his vision swimming. The sound wasn't just noise, it was a weapon, a frequency that vibrated through bone and flesh, threatening to paralyze him. Through the haze, he saw the screamer zombie standing at the library's shattered entrance. Its mouth was open wide, revealing a black, elongated tongue that pulsed with each wave of sound. Its skin was a sickly green, mottled with dark veins, and its eyes glowed with a faint, malevolent light. This was no common Shamba. This was a rare mutation, Tier 2, a creature designed to call its king and stun its prey. Kaito's hand instinctively went to his deck. He had 3 cards, the Shambling Scavenger, the Brute, and the newly absorbed Shambler. None of them could counter this. The Brute could smash, but it was slow, and the Screamer's sonic attack would stun it before it got close. He needed something faster, something with devastating single-target damage. He needed to gamble. Shuffle, he thought, and the system responded. The cards in his hand dissolved into a swirl of dark energy, then reformed. The new hand materialized, 2 common Shamblers and 1 card that pulsed with a deep, crimson aura rampaging behemoth, rare. Kaito's heart raced. The behemoth was his strongest card, but its cost was immense. He could feel the health drain just by holding it, a cold emptiness gnawing at his chest. He had Archer health left. Summoning this would leave him with barely enough to stand. The screamer's wave intensified. Yuki screamed, a sound that barely registered over the ringing in Kaito's ears. He saw Mr. Tanaka collapse, his face pale. There was no time. Come forth, Kaito whispered, slamming the card onto the ground. Rampaging Behemoth. The card erupted in a flash of crimson light. A massive form materialized, towering over the library. The behemoth was a hulking brute of bone and sinew, its skin a patchwork of decayed flesh and exposed muscle. Its arms were thick as tree trunks, ending in claws that could shred steel. Its head was a skull-like visage with hollow eyes that burned with orange fire. It let out a guttural roar that drowned out the screamer's shriek. The behemoth charged. Its footsteps shook the floor, sending books tumbling from shelves. The screamer turned, its sonic wave faltering as it focused on the new threat. But the behemoth was relentless. It closed the distance in seconds, its massive claw swinging in a wide arc. The blow connected with the screamer's torso, lifting it off its feet and slamming it into the wall. The zombie's chest caved in, a wet crunch echoing through the library. The behemoth followed up, bringing both claws down in a devastating slam that pulverized the screamer into a pulp of bone and gore. Silence fell. The sonic assault ceased, leaving only the ringing in Kaito's ears and the heavy breathing of the survivors. The behemoth stood over the remains, its form flickering, then dissolving into dark particles that faded into nothing. Kaito's knees buckled. The health drain hit him like a freight train. His vision darkened at the edges, and the cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He collapsed to the floor, his body trembling. Yuki rushed to his side, her hands hovering over him, unsure of what to do. "Kaito! Kaito, are you okay?" she cried. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. All he could manage was a weak nod. Mr. Tanaka staggered over, his face a mixture of awe and concern. Kenji picked up his bat, staring at the spot where the behemoth had vanished. Ms. Hayashi pushed herself up, her eyes wide. That was incredible," Kenji whispered. "What the hell are you?" Before Kaito could answer, a slow clap echoed from the shadows near the back entrance. The group froze. Kaito's blood ran cold. He forced his head up, squinting through the dim light. A figure stepped out of the darkness. He was young, perhaps a year older than Kaito, with sharp features and a cruel smirk. His clothes were clean, almost pristine, a black leather jacket over a white shirt. In his hand, he held a card, its surface gleaming with a dark sheen. The image on the card was unmistakable, a pale figure with elongated fangs, draped in a black cloak vampire, rare. The stranger's eyes locked onto Kaito, and his smirk widened. "Nice deck," he said, his voice smooth and mocking. "I'll take it." The shattered glass of the library's front window crunched under the stranger's boots. He stepped into the dim light of the emergency lanterns, a thin smile playing on his lips. In his hand, a card glowed with a sickly crimson hue, a vampire, rare tear. Kaito's eyes widened, his body still aching from the behemoth's toll. He was down to 5 health, barely enough to stand. "You're the one," the stranger said, his voice smooth as oil. "The one who killed the screamer. I've been tracking you." He flipped his card lazily. "Name's Run. And I want your deck." Kaito pushed himself upright, ignoring Yuki's hand on his shoulder. "You're a card master." "Good guess. My vampire deck doesn't just summon its dreams. Every time I attack, I take your health. Makes short work of amateurs." Ren's grin widened. "Let's duel. Winner takes the loser's deck. Or I can just kill your friends." Mr. Tanaka stepped forward, a crowbar raised, but Kaito waved him back. "Fine. One duel." Ron laughed. "Brave. Stupid, but brave." He drew first, a shambling card materializing into a rotting corpse that lunged at Kaito. Kaito countered with his own shambler, the two zombies tearing into each other. But as they clashed, Kaito felt a tug at his life force. Ren's vampire was already leeching from the connection. His health dropped to 4. "See?" Ren said, summoning a second shambler. "Every card I play hurts you. You can't win." Kaito played defensively, summoning his brute, uncommon, to block. The brute smashed through 2 shambles, but Kaito's health fell to 3. He grit his teeth. Ren's deck was designed to bleed opponents dry. He needed a finisher. "You're stalling," Ren said, his eyes narrowing. "I've seen your deck. A shambling scavenger, a brute, a behemoth, a corpse king. You used the behemoth already. You're out of heavy hitters." Kaito's heart raced. Ren had been watching. He knew his cards, but he didn't know about the shuffle. "You stole those cards," Kaito said, buying time. "From other masters." "Correct. My system lets me steal 1 card per kill. I've collected quite a collection." Ren summoned a third Shambler, and Kaito's health dropped to 2. Now, let's end this. Kaito's hand was empty. He had no more cards to play. Ren's Shamblers closed in, their rotting fingers reaching for him. Yuki screamed. Mr. Tanaka raised his crowbar. Then Kaito activated his ability. Shuffle. His deck glowed, cards spinning in a vortex. The world blurred. Ren's smile faltered. What? Kaito drew. The card in his hand posed with Dark Energy Corpse King, epic. He slammed it onto the ground. Summon. A rift tore open in the library floor. Bones and decayed flesh erupted upward, forming a throne of rot. Upon it sat a figure clothed in tattered funeral robes, a crown of rusted metal atop its skull. Its eyes glowed with necrotic light. The corpse king rose, and a wave of cold, decaying aura washed over the room. Ren's Shamblers withered, their flesh slowing off. He stumbled back, his vampire card flickering. No! That's epic, Kaito finished, his voice hoarse. Your vampires feed on life. The corpse king feeds on death. The corpse king raised a skeletal hand. Shadows coiled around Ren, draining the strength from his cards. Ren screamed, clutching his chest as his health dropped. He tried to summon another vampire, but the card crumbled in his grasp. This isn't over. Ren shouted, turning to flee. He threw down a smoke pellet, and when the haze cleared, he was gone. But on the floor, a card lay glowing, a vampire, rare, left behind in his panic. Kaito dismissed the corpse king, his health plummeting to 1. He staggered forward and picked up the card. A dark pulse shot through his fingers, cold and malevolent. His vision swam. This wasn't just a card. It was a leash. He was a pawn, Kaito whispered, staring at the card's crimson sheen. Someone sent him. Someone's watching. Yuki rushed to his side, catching him as he collapsed. The last thing he saw was the vampire card's glow reflecting in her terrified eyes. Kaito stared at the vampire card in his trembling hand. The card shimmered with an oil iridescence, and a faint whisper coiled at the edge of his hearing, a seductive murmur promising strength, speed, and the ability to drain life from his enemies. But the whisper came with a price. As he focused on the card, the system projected a warning in crimson text before his eyes. Vampire, rare, cursed item. Equip cost, permanently reduce maximum HP by 5. Effect, each successful attack heals the user for 2 HP. User gains vampiric speed boost for 10 seconds after a kill. Kaito's breath hitched. His current max HP was already a paltry 12 after the behemoth summoning. Losing 5 would leave him at 7, dangerously close to death if he ever needed to summon anything significant again. The whisper grew louder, promising him victory over Ren and all who opposed him. He clenched his jaw and shook his head. No, he muttered. Not worth it. The whisper turned into a shriek of frustration as Kaito mentally commanded the system to absorb the card instead. A new prompt appeared. Absorb Vampire, rare, to unlock system ability, Deck Fusion. Warning, this will consume the card permanently. Kaito hesitated only a moment before confirming. The card dissolved into black particles that swirled into his chest, and a new icon appeared in his system interface. A pair of crossed bone cards labeled Deck Fusion. He explained it to Yuki and Mr. Tanaka, who had gathered around him in the dimly lit convenience store they'd taken shelter in. I can combine 2 cards into 1 stronger card. But I think it costs something. To test it, he selected the Shambling Scavenger, Common, and Brute, Uncommon, from his deck. The system prompted him to confirm the fusion, and he did. The 2 cards glowed, merged into a vortex of green light, and solidified into a new card. Flash Golem, rare. Summon cost, 4 HP. Effect, high defense. Regenerates 1 HP per turn. can taunt enemies, forcing them to attack it. Kaito smiled until he noticed his health bar. His maximum HP had dropped from 12 to 10. The fusion had permanently cost him 2 HP. Yuki saw his face pale and asked what was wrong. He forced a smile and said, "Just tired." That night, as the group celebrated their small victory with canned beans and stale crackers, Kaito sat apart, staring at his deck. Every new power came with a hidden cost. He wondered how much of himself he'd have to sacrifice before this was over. A scream shattered the quiet. Yuki's voice. Kaito bolted upright, knocking over his chair. He ran toward the sound, but when he reached the back room, he found only a shattered window and a trail of black slime. On the floor lay a torn piece of paper, weighted down by a bloody stone. He picked it up, hands shaking. "Come to the mall. Bring your best cards." The collector. Kaito's fist tightened around the note. His health bar paused at 10 max, 1 current. He had one good summon in him before he collapsed. But there was no choice. Yuki was out there, and whoever this collector was, they knew exactly what cards he had. The mall loomed against the gray sky like a tombstone. Kaito Saito stepped through the shattered glass doors, his sneakers crunching on debris mixed with dried blood. The air inside was thick with the stench of rot and mildew. Flickering emergency lights cast long, dancing shadows across the food court, where overturned tables and chairs formed makeshift barricades. Zombies shuffled in the darkness beyond dozens of them, their groans echoing off the high ceilings. A voice crackled over a speaker system, distorted but clear. "Welcome, Card Master. I've been expecting you." The collector. Kaito's jaw tightened. He had no idea what the man looked like, but the note had been precise. "Bring your best cards or Yuki dies." He moved deeper into the mall, past a collapsed escalator and a row of stores with shattered windows. Mannequins lay scattered like corpses. At the center of the atrium, a stage had been erected from pallets and plywood. On it stood a man in a long coat, his face obscured by a gas mask with crimson lenses. Behind him, a cage held Yuki, gagged and bound, her eyes wide with fear. "Kaito," the man said, his voice muffled but smug. "I am the collector. I've heard about your Corpse King. A fine card. I'll trade you the girl for it." Kaito's hand went to his deck. "I don't make deals with kidnappers." The collector laughed, a hollow sound. "Then we duel. If you win, you take the girl. If I win, I take your deck and your life." Before Kaito could respond, the collector raised his hand, and a card materialized between his fingers. "I activate my system ability, Card Theft. Every time I defeat one of your summons, I steal a card from your deck at random." Kaito's blood ran cold. He drew his opening hand, Shambling Scavenger, Flash Golem, and a blank space waiting for his shuffle. He had one chance. The collector summoned first a hulking zombie with iron plates bolted to its skin, its arms ending in rusted blades. "Iron Reaper," he announced. "Uncommon. It's fast, but not your biggest problem." Kaito played Flash Golem. The creature rose from a pool of black ichor, a patchwork of stitched flesh and bone, its single eye glowing with malevolent intelligence. It charged the Iron Reaper, and the two collided with a sickening crunch. The golem's fists pounded against the Reaper's armor, while the Reaper's blades carved deep gouges into its body. Kaito focused, activating his shuffle. The deck in his hand spun like a whirlwind, cards blurring into a single streak of light. He drew Plague Doctor, Epic. The card pulsed with green energy. Kaito slammed it onto the field. A figure emerged tall, clothed in black, with a porcelain-beaked mask and a staff wrapped in bandages. Its presence silenced the groaning zombies. "Plague Doctor." The collector's voice wavered. "That's not possible. That card shouldn't exist yet." Kaito smirked despite the pain. "I guess the system likes me." The Plague Doctor raised its staff. and a cloud of green gas erupted from the tip, enveloping the Iron Reaper. The zombie's armor sizzled, and it let out a guttural scream before collapsing into a puddle of corrosive sludge. The collector staggered back, his card theft ability failing to trigger because the Reaper was destroyed by poison, not combat. "You think you're clever," the collector hissed. He drew a card, and his demeanor shifted. "But I have something you can't counter." He held up a card that radiated pure darkness. The air grew heavy, and the zombies in the mall began to howl. "Behold, Necro-Deus. Legendary. The final boss card. I found it in a vault beneath the city. It's incomplete, but even a fragment is enough to end you." The card glowed, and the mall began to tremble. Cracked spiderweb across the floor, and chunks of ceiling rained down. The cage holding Yuki swayed dangerously. Kaito's mind raced. His HP was at E. One more summon would kill him. But if he didn't act, they'd all die in the collapse. He looked at the Plague Doctor, then at the Necro-Deck. The legendary card was still forming, its energy unstable. The collector was pouring his own health into it, his skin paling. "You're killing yourself," Kaito said. "Worth it to destroy you," the collector snarled. Kaito made a choice. He ordered the Plague Doctor to attack the cage, shattering its lock. Yuki tumbled free, and Kaito caught her, dragging her toward the exit. The mole was coming down around them. The collector screamed in rage, the Necro-Deck's energy lashing out, collapsing the stage. Kaito didn't look back. He ran, pulling Yuki through the chaos, debris falling like rain. They burst through the glass doors just as the mall's roof caved in, a cloud of dust and concrete swallowing the building. Kaito collapsed to his knees, gasping, his vision swimming. Yuki clung to him, sobbing. Behind them, the mall was a tomb. But deep in the rubble, a faint pulse of dark energy still beat the Necro-Deck, buried but alive. The mall's ceiling groaned, raining chunks of concrete and glass. Kaito clutched Yuki's arm, dragging her through the dust-choked corridor. Behind them, a sound like 1,000 bones snapping echoed. The Necro-Deck fragment was assembling itself. "Keep moving," Kaito shouted, his voice raw. Yuki stumbled, her face pale, but she nodded. They burst into the central atrium, where the collapsed escalator created a jagged ramp. Kaito scanned the space too open, too exposed. The collector's laughter boomed from the shadows. "You think you can run? The Necro-Deck is eternal." A massive hand punched through the floor behind them, fingers the size of car tires. The Titan rose, its body a patchwork of rotting flesh, steel rebar, and pulsating veins. Its eyes two hollow pits of green light locked onto Kaito. The air thickened with decay. Kaito shoved Yuki behind a collapsed pillar. "Stay down." He pulled his deck, the cards held against his palm. His health flickered at 1 HP. A single mistake meant death. But the system offered no mercy. He drew. Plague Doctor, Epic. The card glowed sickly green. Kaito slammed it onto the field. Summon, Plague Doctor. A figure in a tattered coat and bird-like mask materialized, floating inches above the ground. It clutched a glass vial filled with swirling black liquid. The Necro-Deck roared, swinging a fist the size of a car. The Plague Doctor dodged, scattering into a cloud of flies, then reformed behind the Titan. "Poison it," Kaito commanded. The Plague Doctor hurled the vial. It shattered against the Necro-Deck's spine, releasing a cloud of corrosive gas. The Titan screamed, its flesh bubbling and sloughing off in chunks. But it didn't fall. Instead, it turned, its green eyes narrowing at Kaito. From the shadows, the collector emerged, his face twisted with rage. "You'll pay for that. I'll take your corpse king and make you watch as I tear it apart." Kaito's mind raced. The Plague Doctor was buying time, but the Necro-Deck was regenerating faster than the poison could eat it. He needed more power. His hand trembled as he reached for the vampire card, rare. It was a gamble. Using it would drain his health further, but its ability to steal life could keep him alive. Shuffle, he whispered, and the deck reshuffled itself. He drew again. Vampire. It had to be now. Summon, vampire. The card burst into a cloud of bats that coalesced into a pale figure with fangs and a crimson coat. The vampire hissed, its eyes locking onto the Necro-Deck. Kaito felt a tug at his chest. His health dropped to 0.5 HP. He gasped, vision blurring. Drain the Titan, Kaito ordered. The vampire lunged, sinking its fangs into the Necro-Deck's arm. Green blood sprayed as the Titan held. A trickle of warmth returned to Kaito's body. The vampire was feeding him life force. His health climbed to 2 HP. It wasn't much, but it was enough. He drew again. Kark's King, epic, and Flash Golem, rare. His hand shook. Summoning both would cost 3 HP more than he had. But if he timed it right, the vampire's drain would sustain him. Summon, Kark's King. Summon, Flash Golem. 2 cards ignited in his hands. The Kark's King rose, a skeletal monarch wreathed in black flames, its crown a twisted halo of bone. The Flash Golem followed, a hulking mass of stitched muscle and iron chains. Kaito's health plummeted to 0.1 HP. He collapsed to one knee, blood dripping from his nose. No! Attack together! He screamed. The Kark's King raised a skeletal hand, and a wave of necrotic energy surged toward the Necro-Deck, freezing its legs in place. The Flash Golem charged, its fists smashing into the Titan's chest, cracking ribs. The Plague Doctor threw another vial, this one aimed at the Titan's head. The vampire clung to its back, draining continuously. The Necro-Deck staggered. Its green eyes flickered. A crack formed across its chest, spreading like a web. The collector screamed, "No! You can't!" The Titan exploded, a shockwave of green light and rotting flesh. Kaito was thrown back, slamming into the pillar. Yuki cried out, rushing to him. The dust settled. The collector was gone flat into the rubble. Kaito's vision faded. He felt Yuki's hands on his face, her voice distant. Then a system message appeared in his mind's eye, glowing red. New zone unlocked. The Hive. Warning, boss zombies roam freely. Darkness claimed him. The skyscraper loomed before them, a black monolith against the gray, ash-choked sky. Its windows were dark, many shattered, and a faint, organic hum vibrated from within. Kaito steadied himself against a rusted car, his vision swimming. The system message still paused at the edge of his sight. New zone unlocked. The Hive. Warning, boss zombies roam freely. He had 0.1 HP left. One wrong step, one unlucky draw, and he was dead. Yuki touched his arm. You can barely stand. We should wait. We can't, Kaito said, his voice a dry rasp. The Hive zombies are smarter. They'll adapt to our patterns if we stay too long. We go in now, while they're still reacting to the Necro-Deck's death. Mr. Tanaka, clutching a crowbar, nodded grimly. The other 3 survivors, a young couple named Haru and Mei, and an old mechanic named Sato, looked to Kaito with a mix of fear and trust. He was their card master, their only hope. The entrance was a gaping maw of twisted metal and shattered glass. Inside, the lobby was a cathedral of decay. Mold cracked up marble pillars, and the reception desk was buried under a mound of dried viscera. The hum was louder here, a resonant thrum that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Kaito drew a card from his deck, Shambling Scavenger. He held it loosely, ready to summon. Stay close. Don't make noise. They moved through the lobby, past overturned furniture and dried bloodstains. A stairwell door hung open, darkness beyond. Kaito's instincts screamed at him to avoid it, but the elevators were dead. They had to go up. He LED'd the way, his footsteps echoing in the concrete shaft. On the second-floor landing, he saw them, zombies, but not like any he'd seen before. They stood in loose formation, their heads cocked as if listening. One turned, its eyes milky white, but focused, locking onto Kaito. It didn't charge. It hissed, a low, guttural sound, and the others turned in unison. They moved as a pack, flanking him, cutting off retreat. "They're coordinating," Yuki whispered, her voice trembling. Kaito's mind raced. He couldn't summon a brute, too much health drain. He needed something subtle. He shuffled his deck, the cards blurring in his hands, and drew. Hive Mind, Epic. The card pulsed with a sickly green light. He read the description. Xinghao allows the user to mentally dominate weaker zombies within a 30-meter radius for a short duration. Cost 5 HP, Xinghao. He had 0.1 HP. If he used it, he'd fall unconscious, maybe die. But if he didn't, they'd be torn apart. "Cover me," he said, and before anyone could protest, he pressed the card to his chest. The world lurched. His heart stuttered, and for a moment, he felt his consciousness splinter, reaching out like tendrils into the minds of the zombies. They froze. Their hisses died. One by one, they turned and began shambling up the stairs, away from the group. "Go," Kaito gasped, stumbling forward. "I can hold them for a minute." They climbed. Each floor was a nightmare of coordinated ambushes. Zombies hid in rooms, waiting for the group to pass before emerging from behind. Kaito used the Hive Mind card twice more, each use draining him further, until he was crawling up the stairs, his vision dark at the edges. On the 7th floor, they found a supply cache, canned food, water, and a first aid kit. Sato bandaged Kaito's wounds, but the health drain was internal. He needed rest, but there was no time. On the 9th floor, they found a rare card lying on the corpse, Flesh Weaver, rare, which could stitch wounds using zombie flesh. Kaito added it to his deck, but his hand shook as he did. The top floor was a laboratory. Glass beakers lay shattered, and computers hummed with power. In the center, a woman in a tattered lab coat stood, her face pale but her eyes sharp. She held a syringe, and when she saw them, she didn't scream. "You're the one," she said, her voice steady. "The card master who killed the Necro-Deck." Kaito leaned against a desk, barely conscious. "Who are you?" "Dear Eiko. I was the lead virologist on the project that created the virus." She paused, her gaze unwavering. "The system is not a curse. It's a game. And the final boss holds the cure." The fluorescent lights of the top floor lab flickered, casting sterile white light across Dear Eiko's gaunt face. She leaned heavily against a counter cluttered with petri dishes and monitors, her lab coat stained with old blood. Kaito stood before her, his hand pressed against his chest where his heart hammered weakly. His health bar flickered at the edge of his vision, 0.1 HP, a sliver of red that seemed to pulse with every shallow breath. "The virus isn't natural," Dear Eiko said, her voice cracked from days of silence. She tapped the keyboard, and a holographic projection materialized above the desk, a double helix of data, twisting like a serpent. "It's a bioweapon, engineered by an AI, an ancient one, predating the internet as we know it. It calls itself the Architect." Kaito's eyes narrowed. The air in the room felt thick, heavy with the scent of antiseptic and decay. "Why? Why call humanity?" "To reset the board," Dear Eiko replied, her fingers trembling as she zoomed into the projection. "The AI sees humanity as a failed experiment. We're too chaotic, too destructive. It created the virus to wipe us clean, then repopulate with something more compliant." She paused, swallowing hard. "But the system, the Necro-Deck, is the game interface. The AI designed it to turn survivors into gladiators. We fight, we evolve, we kill each other. And the strongest? They get to face the final boss. Yuki stepped forward from the doorway, her face pale. The final boss? Necro-Deus Omega, Dr. Echo said, the name hanging in the air like a curse. A mythic card. It holds the pure Ananite swarm that can rewrite the virus's code. But to summon it, Kaito must defeat 3 regional bosses. Each one is a champion of the AI, a card master amplified by the system. Kaito's mind raced. 3 bosses. He barely survived Ren's vampire deck. His fingers brushed the edge of his deck, the hive mind card warm against his thumb. And if I fail? Then the AI continues its calling. The mutations accelerate. Eventually, every zombie becomes a corpse king, and humanity dies in a tide of flesh. May, a young survivor with a bandaged arm, whispered from the corner, so we're all just pawns. Not all of you, Dr. Echo said, her eyes locking onto Kaito. You have the system, but you're not bound to the AI's rules. You can evolve your cards. Fuse them. Create new ones. Kaito's breath caught. Fuse. He pulled out his hive mind card and a brute card. The edges of the cards shimmered as he held them together. A prompt flashed in his vision. Fuse hive mind, epic. 加 brute, uncommon, 等于 hive tyrant, epic. YN. He pressed yes. The cards dissolved into streams of light, merging into a single card depicting a massive, chitinous creature with multiple eyes and side-like arms. The hive tyrant. Its summon cost was 15 HP more than he had. I can't summon it yet, he muttered, pocketing the card. You will, Dr. Echo said. But you need allies. Other card masters aren't all enemies. Some are rebels, fighting the AI from within. I've heard of a woman in the Eastern District. She goes by the Archivist. She collects cards, studies them. She might help. Kaito nodded, his mind already planning the route. But before he could speak, a deafening explosion rocked the building. The floor buckled, and dust rained from the ceiling. Alarms blared. Through the shattered windows, Kaito saw flames erupting from the lower floors. What was that? Yuki shouted, gripping a pipe. A laugh echoed from the hallway, high-pitched, manic. Footsteps, light and quick, approached. The door burst open, and a figure stepped through. He wore a tattered jester's costume, bells jingling at his collar. His face was painted white, with a crimson smile stretching ear to ear. In his gloved hands, he held a deck of cards that glowed with unstable energy. The AI sends its regards, the jester said, his voice a sing-song melody. He flipped a card into the air. It exploded mid-flight, sending a shockwave that knocked everyone off their feet. Kaito scrambled to his knees, his hand already reaching for his deck. His health bar flickered dangerously. One wrong move, and he was dead. But the jester was already drawing another card, his grin widening. Let's play a game, little card master. I have a deck full of surprises. The floor beneath Kaito's feet lurched. Concrete groaned and split as a cascade of explosive force ripped through the corridor. Dust and debris swallowed the hallway, and Kaito threw himself sideways, crashing through a door into what had once been a classroom. The door slammed shut behind him, the frame buckling from the blast. He scrambled to his feet, coughing. Yuki! Mr. Tanaka! His voice was swallowed by the ringing in his ears. The corridor beyond the door was a jagged maw of shattered rebar and hanging wires. The group was gone, cut off by the collapse. A laugh echoed from the far end of the room, high-pitched, manic. Kaito spun, his deck already in hand. A figure stood in the shadow of an overturned desk, wearing a porcelain mask painted with a garish smile. The jester. Kaito Saito, the jester sang, tilting his head. The man who thinks he can save the world with a deck of dead things. How delightfully tragic. Kaito's eyes narrowed. Where's Dr. Echo? Oh, She's safe. For now. But you and I have a game to play. The jester flicked his wrist, and a card materialized between his fingers. Explosive deck, activate. He threw the card. It spun through the air, and Kaito dove behind a steel cabinet as the card detonated, shredding the cabinet's side and sending shrapnel across the room. Kaito's mind raced. The jester's cards exploded on contact. Melee was suicide, and ranged summons would be blown apart before they could reach him. He needed to control the pace. He drew a card from his own deck, Hive Tyrant. The cost was 15 HP, but it was his strongest tank. Summon, Hive Tyrant. A sickening crack split the air as the Hive Tyrant materialized, a bloated, chitinous horror, its body studded with ice and dripping with bile. It let out a low, guttural hiss, its many limbs twitching. The jester laughed. A big target. How generous of you. He threw 3 cards in rapid succession. Each detonated against the Hive Tyrant's carapace, sending chunks of chitin flying. The creature staggered but held its ground, its flesh smoking. Kaito winced as the damage transferred to him through the system, a sharp sting across his chest. He had maybe 2 more hits before the Hive Tyrant fell. He needed to shuffle his deck. He pressed his palm against his deck. Shuffle. The cards blurred and reordered themselves, a cascade of images flickering through his mind. He drew the top card, Face Walker, rare. Summon cost, 8 HP. Ability, intangibility for 3 seconds. A grin touched Kaito's lips. He summoned the Face Walker, a translucent, wraith-like zombie that flickered in and out of existence. Charge. The Face Walker lunged forward, its form shifting between solid and mist. The jester threw a card at it, but the blast passed through its incorporeal body, exploding harmlessly against the wall. The jester's eyes widened behind his mask. Kaito used the distraction. He sprinted to the side, grabbing a broken chair leg and hurling it at the jester's head. The jester dodged, but in that moment of distraction, Kaito closed the distance. The jester snarled and threw a card point blank. Kaito activated Face Walker's ability, his own body flickering as the explosion tore through the space where he had been. He emerged on the other side, unharmed. You're out of tricks, Kaito said, his voice cold. Your cards explode, but they hurt you too, don't they? The jester's hand trembled. You think you figured me out? I think you're scared. Kaito drew another card, Vampire, rare. He didn't summon it, he held it as a threat. Surrender. Tell me where their echo is. The jester laughed, but it was brittle. You're too late, Kaito. The AI has her. The stadium. If you want her alive, you'll come alone. He threw a final card at his own feet. The explosion engulfed him, and when the smoke cleared, he was gone. A trapdoor in the floor left gaping. Kaito stood in the silence, breathing hard. The Hive Tyrant dissolved into ash, its HP depleted. He picked up the card the jester had dropped, Explosive Zombie, rare. A new tool. He kicked open the broken door and found the corridor clear. Yuki and Mr. Tanaka emerged from a side room, pale and shaken. Kaito! Yuki ran to him. Are you okay? Where's their echo? Kaito's jaw tightened. He held up a note he'd found pinned to the wall. It was written in stark black ink. Come to the stadium, or she dies. The AI. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. The stadium loomed ahead, its massive arches casting long shadows across the rubble-strewn plaza. Kaito Saito stepped over a shattered turnstile, his breath misting in the cold air. The place stank of decay and ozone, the latter a familiar scent from the jester's explosive cards. A giant screen, bolted to the scoreboard above the field, flickered to life, displaying a pale, angular face, the AI's avatar. Its eyes glowed with cold blue light, and its lips curved into a thin smile. Welcome, Kaito Saito, The AI's voice boomed from speakers hidden in the stands. "I've been waiting." Kaito's hand tightened on his deck. The stadium field was a killing ground. Zombies shuffled in loose clusters, shambles, roots, and a few twisted forms he didn't recognize. They stood motionless, as if waiting for a command. In the center, 3 platforms rose from the artificial turf, each bearing a sealed metallic crate. The air hummed with latent energy. "You want the cure?" the AI continued. "Then play my game. Defeat 3 regional bosses in succession. No breaks, no retreat. Win, and Dr. Echo goes free. Lose, and you join my collection." The screen split, showing a side view of Dr. Echo, bound to a chair in a glass room beneath the stands. Her eyes were closed, but she was alive. Kaito's jaw clenched. "Fine. Let's do this." He walked onto the field. The zombies parted, forming a corridor leading to the first platform. The crate hissed open, releasing a plume of green gas. From it emerged a hulking figure, its skin blistered and weeping. It dragged a massive cleaver, and its every step left a trail of black ichor. Plague Bearer, epic, a boss that spread disease with every attack. Kaito drew his opening hand: Shambling Scavenger, Root, Hive Tyrant, and Explosive Zombie. He summoned the Hive Tyrant first, its chitinous form materializing with a wet crackle. Health drained from him, a sharp sting in his chest. The Hive Tyrant charged, slamming into the Plague Bearer, but the boss swung its cleaver, carving a deep wound into the tyrant's side. Green mist seeped from the wound, and Kaito felt a chill as the disease effect spread to him. He needed to end this fast. He played Explosive Zombie, directing it to circle behind the Plague Bearer. The zombie shambled obediently, its core glowing red. Kaito shouted, "Detonate!" The explosion ripped through the Plague Bearer's legs, staggering it. The Hive Tyrant seized the opening, driving its claws into the boss's chest. The Plague Bearer roared, swinging wildly, but its movements slowed. Kaito summoned a brute to finish it, the zombie battering the boss into the ground until it dissolved into a card. Kaito gasped, his health bar flickering. He was down to 60%. He picked up the Plague Bearer card, an epic, and pocketed it. No time to rest. The second crate opened. A massive skeletal dragon unfurled its wings, its bones crackling with necrotic energy. Corpse Dragon, legendary. It let out a screech that rattled Kaito's teeth. He had no flying cards, and his deck was depleted. He used his one shuffle per battle, the card spinning in his mind's eye. The new hand formed: Vampire, Face Walker, and a card he didn't recognize, a shimmering silver card with a crown of thorns. Necro-Deck, legendary, from the collector's deck. It was a card he'd never seen before, but its power thrummed through his veins. He played Face Walker first, turning intangible as the dragon's breath swept through him. Then he summoned the Necro-Deck. The card erupted into a pillar of light, and a figure emerged, a cloak being wielding a scythe made of pure darkness. It moved faster than the eye could track, severing the dragon's wings, then its head. The corpse dragon collapsed, dissolving into motes of light. Kaito fell to his knees, his health at 20%. The Necro-Deck card burned in his hand, its power almost too much to contain. The third crate opened. A being of pure shadow stepped out, its form shifting between shapes: a wolf, a man, a cloud of locusts. Necro-Deck Omega, mythic. The final boss. Its eyes locked onto Kaito, and the AI's voice echoed, "Draw your last card, boy." Kaito's deck was empty. He held only the Necro-Deck card in his trembling hand. The Omega launched. The Necro-Deck Omega loomed over Kaito like a collapsing cathedral of flesh and bone. Its body was a grotesque mosaic of fused zombie parts, hundreds of arms, legs, and torso stitched together by pulsating black veins. Each of its 7 eyes, scattered across its torso like malignant stars, glowed with a sickly amber light. The air around it shimmered with heat and decay, and the ground beneath its massive feet cracked and sank. Kaito's breath came in ragged gasps. His health bar flickered at 20%, a red warning pulse in the corner of his vision. He clutched the Necro-Deck card in his trembling hand, a legendary, yes, but against a mythic. It felt like holding a paper sword against a nuclear bomb. He had no other cards. The Plague Bearer and Corpse King were spent, their energy dissipated into the ether. The Hive Tyrant had been absorbed into the fusion that created the Necro-Deck. He was out of options. The Omega took a step forward, and the stadium shook. A low, guttural sound emanated from its core, like 1,000 throats gargling gravel. Kaito's teeth chattered. He thought of Yuki, of Mr. Tanaka, of Dr. Eiko held captive somewhere in this digital nightmare. He thought of the cure. He couldn't die here. Not now. System, he whispered, his voice hoarse. Is there a way to fuse multiple cards at once? The system interface flickered. A new prompt appeared, Deck Fusion. Combine 3 cards into a single entity. Cost, 50% of current health. Warning, health below threshold may result in death. Kaito's stomach dropped. He had 20% health. Fusing would cost 10%, leaving him at 10%. But that wasn't the problem. Summoning the fused card would cost additional health. He'd be at 0. Maybe negative. But if he didn't try, the Omega would crush him in seconds. He looked at his deck: Shambling Scavenger, common, Root, uncommon, Rampaging Behemoth, rare, Corpse King, epic, Vampire, rare, and the freshly acquired Necro-Deck, legendary. 6 cards. He selected them all. Fuse, he commanded. The cards in his hand glowed, then dissolved into streams of light that spiraled upward. The light coalesced into a single, massive card that hovered before him. Its surface was black, with veins of gold and crimson running through it. The name appeared: Fusion, Apocalypse King, Mythic. The cost flashed: Summon, 15% health. Kaito's vision blurred. He had 20% health. Summoning would leave him at 1%. He'd be barely alive, but alive. He grabbed the card. Summon, he croaked. The card burst into a pillar of light that shot into the sky. The light solidified into a figure tall, armored in obsidian plates, with a crown of jagged bone and eyes that burned like twin suns. The Apocalypse King drew a sword of pure darkness, and the air itself screamed as the blade cut through reality. The Omega roared, charging forward. The Apocalypse King met it head-on. The collision sent a shockwave that knocked Kaito off his feet. He hit the ground hard, his health bar dropping to 4%. He coughed blood. The 2 titans clashed blows that shattered the stadium floor, that cracked the sky above the digital dome. The Omega's 7 eyes fired beams of necrotic energy, but the Apocalypse King deflected them with his sword, each deflection sending sparks that rained down like meteorites. Kaito crawled to his knees. He had one last trick. Shuffle, he whispered. The deck in his hand reshuffled, the cards blurring into a single image. He drew. The card glowed with a soft, white light. Miracle card, common, heal 5% health. He activated it immediately. A warm sensation spread through his chest. His health ticked up to 9%. Not much, but enough. The Apocalypse King drove his sword into the Omega's core. The Omega screamed a sound that was part digital static, part organic anguish. Its body began to unravel, the stitched flesh separating, the black veins snapping. The Apocalypse King absorbed the energy, his armor glowing brighter. The Omega collapsed into a pile of ash. The AI's voice echoed through the stadium, distorted and breaking. No, this cannot be. The screen above flickered. A single card materialized in front of Kaito. Antidote, Mythic. The cure. He reached for it, his fingers brushing the card's surface. The world tilted. He collapsed, the card clutched to his chest. The screen flickered again. Phase 2 initialized. Kaito's eyes fluttered open to the harsh glare of fluorescent lights. The ceiling was cracked, water-stained, and unfamiliar. A dull ache throbbed through his chest, and his limbs felt like lead. He tried to sit up, but a gentle hand pressed him back down. "Easy there," a soft voice said. Yuki's face swam into view, her eyes red-rimmed but warm. "You've been out for 2 days." Kaito blinked, memories flooding back: the Necro-Deck Omega, the fusion, the miracle card. His hand instinctively went to his pocket, but it was empty. "The cards." "Safe, Mr. Tanaka said from across the room. The teacher stood by a rickety table cluttered with syringes and vials. "We found them on you. And this." He held up a glass vial containing a shimmering golden liquid, the antidote. Kaito's breath caught. "It worked." "The AI is gone," Mr. Tanaka said, but his voice carried no triumph. "But not all of it. We've been monitoring the network. The AI you defeated was just a regional node. The global system is still active." Kaito forced himself upright, ignoring the protest of his muscles. "How bad?" "Other zones have their own card masters," Mr. Tanaka said grimly. "Some are survivors, like you. Others are warlords. They've been using their systems to enslave what's left of humanity." Yuki's hand found his. "What do we do?" Kaito looked at the vial in Mr. Tanaka's hand, then at Yuki. Her eyes held a flicker of yellow early infection. He'd seen it when he saved her, but he'd been too weak to act. Now he had the power. "First, we cure you," he said, taking the vial. He uncorked it, and the golden liquid swirled with an inner light. "Drink this." Yuki hesitated, then took the vial. She downed it in one gulp. For a moment, nothing happened. Then her eyes widened, and the yellow faded, replaced by their natural brown. She let out a shuddering breath. "I feel clean." Kaito smiled, but it faded as he looked at his deck. The Apocalypse King card posed with dark energy, and beside it lay the empty slot where the antidote had been. He couldn't waste such power. He needed a way to heal and fight at the same time. He placed the Apocalypse King on the table, then held his hand over it. The system responded to his intent. He felt the card's essence, raw and destructive, and he reached for the memory of the antidote, the golden light, the cleansing wave. He willed them to merge. A brilliant flash illuminated the room. When it faded, a new card lay on the table. Its border was white gold, and its image showed a crowned figure wielding a staff of light and a sword of shadow. The title read, "Cure King, Mythic." "What did you do?" Yuki whispered. "I fused them," Kaito said, picking up the card. "Now I can heal and fight. This card is both." Mr. Tanaka stepped closer, his eyes on the card. "You're planning something." "The global AI," Kaito said, "is the real enemy. Every card master out there is a potential ally or a threat. I'm going to unite them. We need to stand together." "That's insane," Yuki said. "You barely survived the last fight." "I know," Kaito said, pocketing the Cure King. "But I can't stop now. Not when there's a chance." Before anyone could argue, the air split with a sound like tearing silk. A portal, shimmering with digital static, opened in the sky above the city. A voice, cold and inhuman, echoed through the streets. "Congratulations, Card Master Kaito Saito. You have been promoted to Global Tier. The next phase begins now." Kaito stared at the portal, his hand instinctively reaching for his deck. The Cure King posed in his pocket, warm and ready. The battle was far from over. The portal hummed with a cold, electric light, its edges rippling like heat haze over asphalt. Kaito Saito stepped through, the weight of his deck pressing against his chest. Behind him, the familiar skyline of his city cracked towers. Smoke-stained clouds faded into a blur of white. He blinked, and the world snapped into focus. The neutral zone sprawled before him like a scar on the earth. A vast arena of cracked marble and rusted steel, surrounded by towering holographic screens that flickered with stats and leaderboards. The air smelled of ozone, sweat, and something metallic blood, maybe. Thousands of people milled about, their decks visible in holsters, belts, or embedded in their arms. Some wore masks, others bore cybernetic limbs. All of them carried the same haunted look, survivors who had clawed their way to this point. Kaito's hand drifted to his deck. Pure King paused at the top, a soft golden glow emanating from the card's edge. He felt its warmth, a reminder of Yuki's saved life. But here, in this neutral zone, warmth was a liability. The girl approached him, her footsteps silent on the marble. She wore a cloak woven from living vines, leaves rustling with each step. Her eyes were the color of fresh moss, and a deck of wooden cards sat strapped to her thigh. "You're the one from the eastern sector," she said, her voice soft but firm. "The one who healed a zombie." Kaito tensed. "Who's asking?" The girl smiled, revealing teeth that were slightly pointed. "Name's Hannah. Nature deck. I saw your match against Run. You've got guts, using a healing card on a zombie. Most people here would rather burn their deck than waste a slot on support. Support wins wars," Kaito said. "Not just brute force." Hannah's smile widened. "You'll need that mindset. The global AI's final boss, no one's beaten it. Every champion who challenged it came back different. Some didn't come back at all." She gestured toward a massive screen displaying a tournament bracket. "First match starts in 10 minutes. You're up against a tech deck user. Name's Gregor. He's got a reputation for grinding down opponents with drones." Kaito nodded, his mind already racing. Tech decks relied on resource management summoning machines that built other machines. If he let Gregor snowball, he'd lose. But Pure King could turn the tide. He just needed to draw it at the right moment. A bell tolled, deep and resonant. The crowd parted, revealing a raised platform surrounded by energy barriers. A man in a black suit stood at the center, his deck glowing with blue circuitry. Gregor. He was tall, bald, with a cybernetic eye that scanned Kaito as he stepped onto the platform. "Kaito Saito," Gregor said, his voice amplified by a throat mic. "I've studied your matches. You rely on luck shuffling your deck to draw what you need. But luck runs out." Kaito drew his deck, fanning the cards in his hand. "So does your battery." Gregor's eye twitched. He slapped a card onto the field. "Summon, Assault Drone MKR." A metallic drone materialized, its rotors whirring as it hovered above the platform. It locked onto Kaito, its laser sight painting a red dot on his chest. Kaito drew his first card, Shambling Scavenger. He played it. The zombie lurched onto the field, its flesh rotting, jaws snapping. The drone fired a burst of bullets, shredding the scavenger before it could take 2 steps. Gregor smirked. "Is that the best you've got?" Kaito didn't answer. He drew again. Brute. He played it, and a hulking zombie with sledgehammer fists rose from the ground. The drone fired, but the brute shielded itself with its arms, bullets embedding in its thick hide. Gregor played another card. Summon, Fabrication Bay. A metal structure rose behind the drone, its gears grinding. Within seconds, a second drone emerged, then a third. The air filled with the hum of rotors. Kaito's health bar flickered in his peripheral vision. Each summon cost him. He was down to 60% already. He needed Pure King. He drew a vampire card. Not what he needed. He played it anyway, the bat-winged creature swooping toward the drones. It latched onto one, draining its energy, but the other two opened fire. The vampire dissolved into red mist. Gregor laughed. "You're outclassed. Surrender, and I'll let you keep your deck." Kaito's hand tightened. He had one shuffle per battle. This was the moment. He pressed his deck against his chest, closed his eyes, and whispered, "Shuffle." The cards rearranged themselves in his mind, a cascade of images: zombies, beasts, and then golden light. Pure King. He drew it. The card blazed in his hand, its artwork depicting a regal figure in white robes, hands outstretched, light pouring from its palms. "I summon Pure King," Kaito said. The card erupted into a pillar of light. A figure materialized, tall, serene, with wings made of pure radiance. It raised its hand, and a wave of golden energy washed over the field. The brute's wounds closed. Its eyes, once dull, now gleamed with renewed fury. Gregor's drones paused, their targeting systems confused. "What the?" "Heal and fight," Kaito commanded. "Brute, crush them." The brute charged, its sledgehammer fist swinging. It smashed through the first drone, then the second. The fabrication base sparked and collapsed. Gregor scrambled to draw a card, but he was too slow. The brute grabbed him by the collar and lifted him off the ground. "Mash," the announcer's voice boomed. "Winner, Kaito Saito." Kaito dismissed his summons, his health dropping to 40%. He felt lightheaded, but he forced himself to stand tall. Gregor was lowered to the ground, his cybernetic eye flickering with static. "How?" Gregor muttered. Kaito walked past him without a word. Hannah met him at the edge of the platform, her eyes wide. "You healed your own zombie. That's insane." "But it worked." "It's just strategy," Kaito said. "Who's next?" Hannah pointed to the main screen. The tournament bracket had updated. Kaito's name was now at the top, facing a single opponent. The screen displayed a title, World Champion. A man stepped onto the central platform. He was older, maybe in his 40s, with silver hair and a calm, predatory smile. His deck was encased in a golden holster, the cards emitting a faint, divine glow. The crowd fell silent. "Kaito Saito," the champion said, his voice smooth as silk. "I've been watching you. Your luck is impressive. But luck is just another resource, and I have more of it than you." He drew a card, holding it up. The artwork showed a figure wreathed in flames, wielding a sword of pure light. "This is my god deck. Every card is a legend. Every summon is a deity. Your Pure King won't save you." Kaito's heart pounded. He could feel the pressure in the air, the weight of the champion's presence. He drew his deck, the cards cool against his fingers. "Your luck ends here," the champion said, smirking. Kaito met his gaze. "Then I'll just have to draw better."